Alan Pierce sat on his wooden porch in Montana. The evening sun painted the sky orange and red as it sank behind the mountains. His old service dog, Ranger, dozed at his feet. At 67, Alan's body told the story of many battles. A scar ran down his left cheek. His right leg, now partly metal and plastic, ached when the weather changed. 20 years had passed since he left the military. 20 years of quiet mornings and peaceful nights. The wars on Earth had ended before humans met aliens and joined the Galactic Council. Now those days felt like a distant dream. Alan sipped his coffee and watched as a black government car drove up his dirt road. Dust swirled behind it. His hand moved to his side where he once carried a weapon. Old habits. The car stopped. A young woman in a crisp uniform stepped out. Her posture told Alan she was military before he saw her lieutenant bars. "Major Pierce," she called as she walked toward the porch. "Haven't been major for a long time," Alan said, but he stood anyway. Ranger lifted his head, alert but calm. "Lieutenant Samantha Winters, sir. I'm sorry to disturb you." She held out a tablet. "Earth needs you again." Alan took the tablet and read. Earth's colony on Proxima Centauri was under attack. The Vraxians, an alien empire known for their cruelty, had come with ships and soldiers. The Galactic Council's forces tried to help but failed. The Vraxians were too strong, their weapons too advanced. "They want us back?" Alan asked, not looking up from the screen. "Yes, sir. Not just you. All of you." Alan scrolled through the list of names. Joe Ramirez, his old second-in-command. Susan Kelly, the best sniper he ever knew. Dozens more. Gray-haired veterans from every branch. "The aliens on the council said no at first," Samantha explained. "They think human ways of fighting are brutal, primitive. They prefer their clean wars with drones and computers." Alan handed back the tablet. "And now? Now they're desperate. The colony has 10,000 people. The council forces can't break through the Vraxian blockade." Alan walked to the railing of his porch. The sun was almost gone now, just a thin line of gold on the horizon. "So they want the savages," he said quietly. "That's what they called us during the peace talks, you know. When we showed them how we fought on Earth. They were horrified." Samantha stood straighter. "We need you, sir. Your experience. Your methods." Alan looked at her young face. She had never seen real war, the kind that he and his generation knew. Since Earth joined the Council, wars were fought differently, cleaner, with rules. "How long do I have to decide?" he asked. "The transport leaves in 3 hours, sir, from the base in Great Falls." Alan nodded slowly. He turned to look at his small house. 20 years of peace, of trying to forget the things he'd done and seen. "Ranger," he said, and the old dog stood, ready as ever. "We've got work to do." He faced Samantha again. "I'll need my old gear. The mechanical stuff, nothing digital. The Vraxians can hack anything with a computer chip." Samantha looked confused. "Sir, the Council provides the latest equipment." Alan smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Lieutenant, if they wanted the latest equipment, they wouldn't be calling people like me. They want the old ways, the ways that worked when nothing else did." He stepped back into his house and returned minutes later with a worn duffel bag. Inside were things the Galactic Council would consider museum pieces: a compass, paper maps, mechanical timers, simple explosives. "They called us savages," Alan said as he locked his front door. "Let's see what they call us when we save their advanced civilizations." The U.S. Defiant floated in space like a massive metal island. Inside, 300 old soldiers moved with purpose through its halls. Some walked with canes. Others had metal arms or legs. All had gray hair and faces marked by time and war. Colonel Frank Martinez stood on the bridge watching them on the screens. At 72, his back still stayed straight as a rod. His dark eyes missed nothing. 20 years ago, He led special forces teams into the worst places on Earth. Now the galaxy needed those same skills. "They look like they belong in nursing homes, not a battlefield," said a high musical voice behind him. Martinez turned. Ambassador Scyther of the Solari stood there. The alien had blue skin that seemed to glow slightly and was tall and thin like a reed. His large eyes looked down at the human with doubt. "Appearances can trick you, Ambassador," Martinez said. He pointed to a woman with white hair checking over a fighter ship on one screen. "That's Captain Olivia Grant. Shot down 17 enemy aircraft in the Southeast Asia conflict. See the man with the silver hand? Jack Coleman. Saved 30 Marines under heavy fire after losing that hand." Scyther made a sound like bells tinkling. Impressive stories from Earth's violent past. But the Vraxians have neural disruptors and plasma cannons. Your veterans will be using outdated ships and weapons by Council standards. Martinez smiled. It was not a kind smile. "With respect, Ambassador, you've never seen old humans fight. We don't need your fancy weapons." On the lower deck, Grant ran her hand over the fighter ship she would pilot. It was an old model by Council standards. She spoke to the 5 pilots standing with her, all in their 60s. "They've given us the slow ships," she said. "They think we can't handle the new ones. But remember what we did with less during the resource wars. We'll show them what experience means." The men and women nodded. Their eyes were bright with purpose after years of quiet retirement. In the training room, 20 veterans practiced hand-to-hand combat. Their movements were slower than in their youth but precise. They knew exactly where to strike, how to use an enemy's strength against them. When younger crew members watched, they saw not old people but dangerous fighters. 3 days until we reach Proxima Centauri," Martinez told the group leaders at the evening meeting. "The Council forces have lost 6 ships trying to break through the Vraxian blockade." "What's their weakness?" asked Denise Howard, once a master sergeant who led troops through the African campaigns. "They rely too much on technology," Alan Pierce said. He had studied the Vraxian battle reports since coming aboard. "Their ships are advanced, but their tactics are simple. They've never faced an enemy who didn't fight the same way they do." "That's our edge," Martinez agreed. "They expect ships to fight ships, soldiers to fight soldiers. They don't expect us to think differently." Later, Ambassador Scyther watched from the observation deck as the veterans gathered in the mess hall. He was surprised to see them laughing, telling stories, showing pictures of grandchildren. How could they be so calm knowing what waited for them? A human officer stood beside him. "They don't fear death the same way we do," she explained, seeing his confusion. "They've faced it too many times. Your council has always seen humans as the primitive newcomers," Martinez said, joining them. "You look at our shorter lives and think we're lesser beings, but we pack more living into our years than most species do in centuries." Scyther turned his large eyes to the old colonel. "And more dying too." Martinez nodded slowly. "Yes, that's why we're going to win. We understand the cost better than anyone, and we're willing to pay it." As the Defiant moved closer to the battle zone, the veterans prepared. They checked their gear, studied Vraxian tactics, and made their own plans. The Council representatives watched with growing curiosity as these old warriors prepared to face an enemy that had defeated forces with far superior technology. They were about to learn what humanity had known for thousands of years. War is won not by the strongest weapons, but by the strongest will. The Vraxian ships formed a tight circle around Proxima Centauri IV. Their red and black hulls looked like hungry predators waiting to strike. On the planet below, 10,000 human colonists hid in underground bunkers, hoping for rescue. The Council's warships kept their distance. 6 had already been destroyed trying to break through. The Vraxians' weapons were too strong, their shields too powerful. Alan Pierce stood with 11 other veterans in the Defiant's launch bay. They wore simple black suits with no fancy tech. Each carried mechanical weapons, knives, guns with actual bullets, explosives with manual triggers. Admiral Catherine Bell, the overall human commander, addressed the council representatives on the bridge. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform perfect. "My team will disable the Vraxian command ship's shields," she explained. "Then we can attack." Ambassador Skither shook his blue head. "This is suicide. The Vraxians will see them coming." "No, they won't," Bell said calmly, "because we're sending them in without any technology the Vraxians can detect." A view screen showed Pierce and his team climbing into what looked like a metal barrel. It had no engines, no computers, no electronics at all. "That's just a metal shell," a council officer said in confusion. "Yes," Bell agreed. "We'll fire it from our main gun like a bullet. No heat signature, no energy readings, just metal and people." Skither's eyes widened. The impact would kill them. Bell pointed to the thick padding inside the pod. "We've adjusted for that. This is how humans fought before we had fancy ships. We made do with what we had." In the pod, Pierce checked his team one last time. There was Lisa Yang, who had once been the best explosives expert in the Navy. Carl Johnson, who could kill with his hands even at 65. 10 others, all veterans of Earth's last brutal wars. "They think we're too old," Pierce told them. "Too slow. But what do we have that young soldiers don't?" "Experience," they answered together. "And what does experience teach us?" Johnson smiled, showing a missing tooth, "that you don't need fancy toys to win a fight." The pod sealed shut. Darkness surrounded them. Through the metal, they heard Bell's voice. "Launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A massive force pushed them back against the padding. The pod shot from the Defiant like a bullet from a gun. For 30 seconds, they felt crushed by the speed. Then, silence and weightlessness as they floated through space toward the Vraxian command ship. On the Council flagship, aliens gathered around view screens. They watched the small metal pod drift past the Vraxian sensors without triggering any alarms. "Impossible," Skither whispered. The pod hit the hull of the Vraxian ship with a dull thud. Inside, the humans were shaken but alive. They waited 5 minutes, listening for alarms. Nothing. Pierce gave the signal. Yang placed a small device against the hull, a chemical that would eat through metal without heat or noise. After 10 minutes, a hole appeared. One by one, they slipped inside the Vraxian ship. The aliens inside were tall and skeletal with gray skin and 4 arms. They moved confidently through their advanced vessel, never expecting enemies inside. Pierce's team moved like shadows. They used hand signals to communicate. When they encountered Vraxians, they struck with swift, silent precision. The alien warriors, used to fighting with long-range weapons, never expected knives or bare hands. Yang found the shield generator room. She placed old-fashioned explosives, the kind that needed no computers to detonate. Johnson stood guard, breaking the neck of a Vraxian who discovered them. On the Council flagship, alarms suddenly blared. The view screens showed the impossible. The Vraxian command ship's shields were failing. "Human team reports mission successful," a communications officer announced. "Shield generators destroyed." Skither stood frozen, his blue skin pale with shock. "How? How did they do it?" Bell smiled. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The Vraxians scan for energy signatures, heat, radiation. They never look for people using simple tools." For the first time since the battle began, hope spread through the Council fleet. The human veterans had done what their advanced ships could not. "All ships," Bell ordered, "prepare to attack. The old soldiers have opened the door. Now we walk through it." News of Pierce's team's success spread quickly through the Council fleet. For the first time, the mighty Vraxian ships seemed vulnerable. The command ship floated in space, its shields down and its communications array destroyed. Colonel Martinez called all the human veterans to the main hangar of the Defiant. Captain Olivia Grant stood before a group of 12 old pilots. Her white hair was cut short, and her eyes shone with the fire of a warrior ready for battle. "This is our chance," Martinez told them. "While the Vraxians are confused, we strike. Captain Grant will lead our fighters." The council officers watched with doubt as the aging human pilots climbed into their ships. These fighters were old models by council standards. The aliens had given them these outdated ships because they didn't believe humans could handle the newer ones. "Those pilots are too old," a green-skinned council officer said to Admiral Bell. "Their reflexes are too slow for combat flying." Bell smiled. "Watch and learn." Grant's voice came over the radio as her squadron launched. "Remember Titan, people. Same maneuvers, different dance floor." The other pilots laughed. They had all fought in the Battle of Titan, Earth's moon, 25 years ago. It was a battle that had become legend. The human fighters flew toward the Vraxian defensive line. Instead of flying in standard formation, they broke apart in what looked like chaos. "What are they doing?" Ambassador Skither asked in alarm. "They're breaking formation." But it wasn't chaos. It was a dance they had performed many times before. The old pilots pushed their ships in ways the council races never would. They flew too close to danger, used maneuvers that strained metal and bone. A Vraxian cruiser fired at Grant's ship. Instead of evading, she flew straight at the beam, rolling her ship at the last second. The beam missed by inches. While the Vraxian gunners were surprised by this move, she fired directly into their weapon ports. "That's impossible," gasped a council officer as they watched. "The targeting computers say that shot can't be made." "She's not using the targeting computer," Bell explained. "She's using her eyes and 50 years of experience." Two human fighters were hit and began to spin out of control. But instead of retreating, the pilots aimed their damaged ships directly at Vraxian vessels. They ejected at the last moment as their ships crashed into enemy shields, weakening them for the others. "They're killing themselves," Skither said to Admiral Bell. "No," Bell replied calmly. "They're winning." On the planet below, Master Sergeant Denise Howard led 30 veterans to secure the human colony. The colonists had been hiding in underground bunkers for weeks, running out of food and hope. Howard set up defenses around the main bunker entrance. Her team dug pits and covered them with leaves. They set up traps made of simple materials. When Vraxian ground forces approached, Howard's people didn't hide. Instead, they broadcast sounds through the forest. Human battle cries, laughter, the noises of loading weapons. The sounds echoed from all directions. The Vraxians, used to fighting enemies who relied on stealth and technology, became confused and afraid. "They don't understand," Howard told her second-in-command as they watched the alien soldiers hesitate. "Their species evolved as methodical hunters. Humans evolved as both hunters and prey. We understand fear in ways they don't." When the Vraxians finally attacked, they fell into carefully planned traps. Howard's veterans fought with a mix of modern weapons and ancient tactics. They used the trees for cover, set fires to change the direction of the wind, and attacked from unexpected angles. Back in space, Grant's squadron had destroyed 7 Vraxian ships. The Council fleet, seeing their success, finally moved forward to join the battle. In the Council command ship, the alien leaders watched in amazement as the tide of battle turned. Human veterans, many with artificial limbs and gray hair, fought with a skill and ferocity they had never witnessed. "We misunderstood them," Skither said quietly. "We thought their short lives made them less advanced. But it gives them something we lack, the ability to accept risk, to push beyond safety." For the first time since the conflict began, the Vraxian fleet began to retreat. The old soldiers of Earth had done what the Council's advanced technology could not. They had changed the course of the war. The Galactic Council's diplomatic vessel floated in the darkness of space. Inside its grand meeting hall, representatives from 17 alien species sat in a circle. The room hummed with urgent voices. "We must discuss what we have witnessed," said the tall, insect-like leader of the Felkorian people. "These humans fight with a savagery we have never seen." They use their bodies as weapons. They sacrifice ships without hesitation. Their tactics seem illogical. Yet they succeed where our forces failed, said another representative, a small being with 6 eyes. Ambassador Skith stood in the center of the circle. His blue skin looked pale under the bright lights. He had watched the human veterans fight for 3 days now. What he had seen changed everything he thought he knew about the human species. We misunderstood them, he admitted to the council. When we first met humans, we saw their technology and assumed they were behind us. But their true strength was never about technology. It was about warfare itself. A screen showed images from the battle. Old human pilots flying in ways that defied safety protocols. Pierce's team moving through a Vraxian ship like ghosts. Howard's ground forces using the forest itself as a weapon. They think differently than we do, Skither continued. We fight wars with rules and protocols. They fight to win, no matter the cost. The council members spoke in hushed tones. Some seemed afraid. Others seemed impressed. After hours of debate, they reached a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant, Admiral Bell received a message from the council. As she read it, her eyes widened. She immediately called Colonel Martinez and the other veteran leaders to the bridge. The council has formally requested full human military intervention against the Vraxian Empire, she told them. They are removing all previous restrictions on our combat methods. Martinez nodded slowly. They finally understand what we bring to the fight. There's more, Bell said. They're offering us access to their advanced ships and weapons. They want us to integrate our tactics with their technology. Pierce thought about this. We accept, but on one condition. Our veterans lead the charge. Bell smiled. I already told them that. On the planet's surface, Howard's team had secured the colony. The 10,000 human colonists emerged from their bunkers into the sunlight. They cheered when they saw Earth's flag flying beside the council banner. Howard met with a Vraxian prisoner, a high-ranking officer with gray skin and hollow eyes. She sat across from him in a simple tent. No fancy interrogation equipment, just 2 beings face to face. Why do you fight like this? The Vraxian asked in a raspy voice. Your people are old. Your weapons are simple. You should have lost. Howard leaned forward. Because we've seen more battles in our short lives than you have in your long one. Experience counts for more than youth or technology. The Vraxian seemed to shrink in his seat. My people thought humans were the weakest species in the council. We were wrong. News of the council's decision spread through the human forces. For the veteran soldiers, it meant vindication. The galaxy would now see the full potential of human warfare, unrestrained by the council's rules. On the Defiance Bridge, Pierce watched the stars through the viewport. A young council officer approached him. My people don't understand how you can fight so fiercely at your age, the alien said. Our warriors retire much younger. Pierce turned to him. On Earth, there's an old saying, old age and treachery will always beat youth and skill. The Vraxians have youth and technology. We have age and experience. Across the fleet, human veterans prepared for the next phase of the war. Some trained council forces in human tactics. Others planned new strategies using council technology. All felt a sense of purpose they had missed since retiring from Earth's military. The Vraxian Empire had begun to pull back its forces, surprised by the sudden change in the battle. Their leaders, who had expected an easy victory against what they saw as a primitive species, now faced an enemy they didn't understand. An enemy who had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. The full power of human warfare spread across the stars. Pierce's team, now larger with veterans from many Earth nations, began teaching council forces how humans fought. The aliens struggled with ideas like fighting spirit and never leave a man behind. They could not understand how humans kept fighting through pain. Major Linda Rodriguez sat at a desk covered with maps and reports. At 61, her dark hair had turned silver, but her mind remained sharp. Before retirement, she had been one of Earth's top intelligence officers. Now she studied Vraxian culture, looking for weaknesses. All species have fears, she explained to a group of council officers. The Vraxians fear chaos and unpredictability. Their society is built on order. Their military expects enemies to behave in logical ways. "So we be illogical," said Colonel Martinez, standing beside her. He pointed to a map of Vraxian space. "They expect us to attack their military targets. Instead, we hit random locations. We appear and disappear. We make them feel that nowhere is safe." The Council forces tried to learn human ways of war. Some picked it up quickly. Others found it hard to break old habits. The human veterans were patient teachers. They knew these lessons had taken Earth thousands of years to learn. On the training deck of the Defiant, Alan Pierce watched as a group of aliens tried to complete an obstacle course. They moved with perfect form, but no heart. "You're still trying to be perfect," he told them. "In battle, perfect gets you killed. You need to be unpredictable." One alien, a tall being with scaled skin, looked confused. "But our training says to follow patterns and protocols." Pierce shook his head. "Patterns can be predicted. Protocols can be countered. The moment your enemy knows what you'll do next, you've lost." He demonstrated by running the course himself. Despite his age and artificial leg, he moved with surprising speed. He didn't take the obvious path but chose unexpected routes. When faced with a wall, instead of climbing over as the aliens expected, he found a loose panel and went through. "See," he said, breathing hard at the finish. "Find the way no one expects." In space, the war expanded. Captain Grant now led a mixed fleet of human and council ships. The alien pilots had learned to fly like humans, taking risks, using emotions as a weapon, finding paths that computers said were impossible. The Vraxian Empire began to crack. Their leaders, used to fighting by strict rules, could not adapt to the chaos of human warfare. Their ships still had better technology, but technology alone wasn't enough. Linda Rodriguez developed special operations against the Vraxians based on their cultural fears. Human veterans recorded messages that played at random times on Vraxian communication channels. Laughter, battle cries, songs from Earth. These simple sounds terrified the orderly Vraxians more than any weapon. Council scientists watched in fascination as humans modified alien technology to work in ways they had never imagined. The veterans didn't understand all the science, but they understood war. They turned defense systems into traps, communication devices into weapons. "Your people think differently," a council engineer told Martinez. "We build technology, then find uses for it. You imagine what you need, then build it." Martinez nodded. "Necessity is the mother of invention," another old Earth saying. After weeks of fighting, the combined human and council forces pushed toward the main Vraxian fleet protecting their home system. Grant prepared for the biggest battle yet. For Earth and the council. She broadcast as their ships moved into attack position. The Vraxian fleet, once feared throughout the galaxy, broke apart under the human assault. Their ships scattered, their formations fell into disarray. Their leaders, facing an enemy they couldn't understand, made desperate choices. For the first time, in thousands of years, the mighty Vraxian Empire sent a message asking for peace talks. The galaxy would never be the same again. The old soldiers of Earth had changed the very nature of war among the stars. As peace talks began, human veterans found themselves celebrated throughout council space. Alien species that once looked down on humans now studied their military history with great respect. Schools on distant worlds taught Earth's battles alongside their own. Alan Pierce sat beside a medical pod in the Defiant's hospital wing. Inside the pod lay Lieutenant Samantha Winters. The young officer had been badly hurt during the final battle when she led a team to rescue trapped colonists. Doctors said she would recover, but Pierce saw in her eyes the same haunted look he had carried for decades. "We won," she whispered, her voice weak. "But is this what it felt like for you, after your wars?" Pierce nodded slowly. He took her hand in his rough one. Victory always costs more than anyone wants to pay. That's something the Council never understood. War isn't about technology or even tactics. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice. Across the fleet, other veterans dealt with their own feelings. Some celebrated their return to purpose. The years of quiet retirement had been hard for warriors who defined themselves by battle. Others counted the days until they could return to their porches and peaceful sunsets. In the main colony on Proxima Centauri IV, Colonel Martinez met with Vraxian representatives. The once proud alien seemed smaller now, humbled by defeat. Martinez did not gloat or threaten. He had seen too many wars end badly when victors pushed too hard. "You fought well," he told the Vraxian leader, "but you fought as if war was a game with rules. For humans, war has only one rule: survive." The Vraxian's four hands trembled slightly. "We believed humans were the weakest species in the Council. Your lives are so short. Your technology so basic. We did not understand what that meant." Martinez looked out the window at human colonists rebuilding their homes. "It means we can't afford to lose time. It means every day matters." On the Council's diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Skither addressed the full assembly. His blue skin glowed with emotion as he spoke. "We invited humans into our galactic community believing we would guide them to enlightenment," he said. "We now understand they have much to teach us about resolve, sacrifice, and the dignity of standing one's ground against impossible odds." The Council members listened in silence. Many had lost faith in their own military strategies. Some feared this new understanding of humans. Others saw opportunity in this alliance. Back on the Defiant, Captain Grant received a medal from the Council's highest military officer. The alien placed the strange, glowing symbol on her uniform with shaking hands. "I watched you fly," the alien said. "My people lived 3 times longer than humans, but in all my years, I never saw anyone fly like that." Grant smiled tiredly. "When you know your time is limited, you make it count." In a quiet moment, Pierce found Howard sitting alone in the observation deck, looking at the stars. She had lost 2 of her oldest friends in the ground battle. People she had known for 40 years, gone in an instant. "Was it worth it?" he asked, sitting beside her. Howard didn't answer right away. She touched a scar on her face from a war fought when she was young. "They called us to fight because they thought we were expendable. Old soldiers near the end anyway. But we showed them something they never expected." "What's that?" Pierce asked. "That wisdom matters more than youth. That will matters more than technology. That some battles can only be won by those who understand the true cost of fighting." Throughout Council space, news spread of what the human veterans had done. Species that had seen humans as primitives now looked at them with new eyes. The galaxy had changed forever. In the medical bay, Samantha Winters slowly recovered. She would carry scars like the veterans who had taught her. She understood now what they had tried to tell her on Earth. War left marks that no technology could heal. "The difference," Pierce told her, "is that you won't be alone with those scars. Not like we were. The galaxy knows now what humans can do. They won't forget again." 6 months after the Vraxian conflict ended, most of the veterans returned to Earth. They went back to their interrupted retirements, their quiet homes, and peaceful routines. But things had changed. The galaxy now knew what humans were capable of. Alan Pierce sat on his porch in Montana, watching the sunset with Ranger at his feet. The old dog had missed him during the war. Now they enjoyed each evening together, as if making up for lost time. Pierce often received visitors these days. Alien diplomats came to his small house, seeking to understand the human warrior spirit. Young military officers from Earth brought notebooks and recorded his words. He told them stories of the old wars on Earth and the new one among the stars. The Galactic Council had created a new military doctrine based on human strategies. Young officers from Earth now trained alongside the best tactical minds from a dozen worlds. They learned from each other, combining the wisdom of long-lived species with the adaptability of humans. On this particular evening, Pierce noticed a vehicle approaching his property. It wasn't the usual government car, but something more official. When it stopped, Captain Samantha Winters stepped out. Her uniform was new, with extra bars on the shoulder. She walked with a slight limp now, a reminder of her injuries. Major Pierce, she called as she walked up to the porch. Or should I say, General Pierce now. Pierce waved away the new title the council had given him. Just Alan is fine. What brings you here, Captain? Or should I say, Major Winters now. Samantha smiled and sat in the chair beside him. She patted Ranger, who remembered her smell. They're holding a ceremony, she said, on the council's capital world. Admiral Bell asked me to come get you personally. Pierce looked out at the mountains. Another ceremony. There have been enough of those. This one's different, Samantha explained. They're unveiling a monument to the veterans who fought against the Vraxians. It will stand in the main plaza of the council capital. She handed him a small device. A hologram appeared above it, showing the monument design. It showed older human soldiers standing tall, their faces proud but weary. The inscription read, "To the old soldiers of Earth, who taught the galaxy that wisdom and will matter more than youth and technology." Pierce stared at the image for a long time. He had never expected to be remembered this way. "I'll watch from here," he said finally. "These old bones don't need another trip to space." Samantha's face grew serious. "There's something else. The real reason I came." She pulled out an official document. They've detected another hostile force at the edge of Council space. Something worse than the Vraxians. The Council has requested you specifically as strategic advisor. Pierce looked at the sunset, the colors painting the sky gold and red. Then he looked at Ranger, now gray around the muzzle just like himself. He thought about his quiet life here, and the chaos of war among the stars. "Tell them I'll come on one condition," he said finally. "Name it," Samantha replied. "I choose my own team. Veterans I know and trust." He reached down to pet Ranger. "And the dog comes too." Samantha laughed. "I'll make it happen." As the sun set on Montana, Pierce thought about the strange path his life had taken. He had fought in Earth's last wars. He had helped save a colony among the stars. He had changed how an entire galaxy thought about warfare. Now, when he should be enjoying his final years in peace, the galaxy needed old soldiers once more. "Looks like retirement will have to wait again," he told Ranger, who thumped his tail in agreement. The next morning, Pierce packed his few belongings. On the wall hung medals from Earth's wars, and now from the Council too. He took only one, his first from long ago. It reminded him of what mattered most. As he closed his door, he didn't know if he would return. But he knew that somewhere out there, the old soldiers of Earth would once again show the galaxy what humanity could do when challenged. And the galaxy would watch in shock once more.